So I suppose there's a direct communication out into the field to say, I lived, this is who I was, and despite being entered into, heavily influenced by entities that I had nothing to do with, that were sabotaging and subverting my efforts to be raw and real and to exist beyond the quasi-vetted paradigm that human beings think they're in control at all, the worthless degrees that you are permitted to attain, that you are assisted to attain, and that you know that the information that you learn doesn't even scratch the surface, but now you're considered an expert because you're supposed to implement a program and to keep your mind, yourself, locked in, right? And it doesn't take a lot of effort on your part. The way that it flagrantly assumes you is that it will show up randomly, right? The consciousness will show up randomly when you least expect it, but that's not even a foreseeable marker. It will when it wants to, when it needs to engage and institute you as a viable measure to sway someone else that you think really has no value at all. Because our valuation, what we value, is very much to do with Machiavelli and virtue, right? Virtue and value has to be tradable as a commodity. And when it's not seen as a commodity, when it has no vetted tradable value on a stock market that has no value, right? Then it's ditched off to the side. And what brings you value is becoming vetted by this, I don't know, you realize that it can't really be seen, not really, as a satanic or Luciferian, that it has to do, the definites the pragmatic empirical definites that will not manifest before us, because this is all part of the occulted cult mechanism, is that sex has to be involved in it, right? Because this heightened state of the Stelemic Dionysian worship has to say that your telomeres and your proverbial but quite real antennae, right, of radio control, that you're directly interfacing cybernetically with this from this hub, right? And the inverted pentagram is even more prolific and specific in the guise and the ways that it is a mechanism of control. Is that you not only have to give reverence to this infused age-old entity, right, that could be linked with these visitors, these assumable visitors, right, that are working part and parcel to it. In other words, no action, no activity takes place without it, without giving allegiance to it. Even the sun itself shines because of it. The food that you eat comes from it. The vetting process hails to it. And so there's a very depressive quality aspect to this, that when you reach this place, that it's like you're paddling in the same place, right? Just to dog paddling, as they call it, just to survive. And it's taking everything you have, right? Just to be yourself, right? And then all of a sudden, you realize that in this world, even though you've been focusing so much, that all that energy that you expended, all that time, all that focus on just maintaining yourself, someone else was able to assume themselves and their own quality and their own value on their own time, but because they never really questioned it, they prayed to a god that was the god of this earth, the god of this planet, which is an energy system, right? Like, ultimately, whatever gives you what you want when you're in alignment with it, the material things that you think, a material thing can even be the, you get into a Freudian view of where the self resides, the id, the ego, the superego. And then you see this tertiary aspect to it, right? That there's a trifold aspect to the self, and that the self has to pay homage to, but directly, once it comes down to it, once the chips are down, that you are 100% consciously worshiping, right, a particular source code or entity that becomes very prolific, very overstated, right? That undeniably, when you come before it, when you come before that inverted pentagram, that this is what it means, right? It reveals all its cards before you. And there's a level of transparency that parades with great pageantry, right? Because it's just like the Masons and the Shriners, right? They're out there in public with this strange sort of seemingly mystical energy where you're looking at them and they're these weird old guys, right? But they appear like benevolent people of the community. And you realize, oh, that's the guy who owns the ice cream store. There's the guy that runs the Masonic Hall, and you might not even see them. There's the lady, cheering them on that runs the library. And these figureheads hail back to an institution, right, that is taking over the entire universe, the cosmos, right, with these armatures. And you have to wonder, why is this happening over and over again, this recruitment process? And it's kind of like, because it works. Because it has such a high success rate at garnering those who will be conformists to this energy, right? And even with all of the information that's available to us, right? We can look at the history. We can see cycles and eras of repeat over and over again. The same cycle. You got that 26,000 year cycle. You have the half cycles, the Younger Dryas, the galactic cycle, right? Or the Great Galactic Cycle, the Great Work, right? And you see that there's been different names. And in this time, we think that we are, that it's transparent, that it's fully revealed to us how history was made, what these occulted mechanisms are, all the way to these civilizations that are being found throughout the Amazon and in other places. You could say places that are very reminiscent of Angkor Wat, or even discoveries about ancient Egypt, right? And how pivotal Egypt is as a central geographical location, but even more so like Iran, Iraq, Persia, And when you get down to it, as you do your research, as you find out more, you're supposed to go through this sort of filtration process where you finally arrive at, wow, what does this person believe in? This is someone that I really respect, right? This is someone that I really sort of idealize as a pillar of society. Like, there has to be some correct way, right? And that's exactly what it is. It comes down to pillars and columns, right? Numbers and number systems. That at the center, you have somebody fundamentally who will tell you Yes, I'm a Satanist. Yes, I'll be called a Luciferian, right? And this isn't a bad thing, right? That's what they want you to believe. This is not a bad thing. Yes, I'm a Mason. Yes, I'm an Eastern Star. Yes, I'm a Mormon, right? And they'll proclaim this energy as this is just worshiping nature, right? But there's something embedded in nature that allowed nature away, allowed, in other words, it's like, it's almost as if every, um, it's a honing, a beacon signal, a centrifugal fugal force that everything revolves around, and it blankly states that this is the energy that you are going to worship and you're going to hail. This is how you, undeniably, this is how you came into your education. This is what gave you cause. This is what gave you passion, right? And you're supposed to have this intimate relationship with this entity or this energy, right? That's very aware of you and your personal viewpoints, your personal scope, that you're supposed to see invariably everything that you in half measure, that you saw as value, as you saw as virtue, as you saw as principle, that you decided that you are this this force, this, and ultimately it's, you will end up resigning and releasing yourself to it, because it will have convinced you that everything, again, in half measure, quarter measure, in its full unfoldment, is in fact that entity. So losing yourself into it and then thinking that you are going into some sort of heavenly, you know, ultimately what you are doing is you are an entered apprentice into the hive mind,